from the local station. This is Weather Authority Weekday.
All right, well, good morning, everyone. Meteorologist Chris Holtzman here. It's time for our Monday edition of Weather Authority Weekday, and we have a lot to talk about. I mean, what type of weather did we have over the weekend? Well, we saw some snow, and by the way, it was pretty historic as well because we set a new record low temperature Sunday morning. We tied our record low in Jacksonville this morning, and we also set a we tied the record coldest high temperature. 43 was our high yesterday. The record low high 43 as well. So again, our average low, to put that into perspective, is 44 degrees. We didn't even reach that yesterday, and really the cold continues today, although it is improving with some of that sunshine that we have out there. Now, again, we saw some flurries across our area. We had so many good videos sent in. Thank you so much to everyone out there. This video comes in from Middleburg, and you can see some flurries falling, just enough to get them on video. So how cool is that? You can see some of the flurries around. We also had another video from Northside. And look at that. Now this is a little bit more, you can see vibrant. The flurries falling with the wind, and that wind was certainly howling over the weekend. Another video sent in from St. Mary's, and you see some of that snow flurry activity coming down. And that is pretty remarkable for our area. Again, we have seen flurries, and even at one point accumulating snow since records have been recorded. But again, pretty remarkable to see those flurries coming down. And you might be wondering, well, why did we see flurries? And what exactly is the reasoning for some icing that some folks saw last weekend when we had another system? Well, let's quickly talk about our precipitation types. So there's rain, that's all liquid. We have freezing rain. There's also sleet and even snow. So let's kind of break down each one, kind of give you a detailed explanation of why. So when we see rain, of course, again, you'll notice that all our precipitation starts as snow, but it melts to rain in a deep layer of warm air that extends to the surface. So very thin layer of freezing air at the cloud level, and then you'll see all above freezing to the ground. And that's why rain forms and why it's liquid and it's above freezing and not snow. Now, when we get into the idea of freezing rain, again, same concept that we do have snow starts falling from the cloud, but there's a layer of warm air. It's often very deep, just to the above the surface. So rain falls, but then on the ground, well, we do have below freezing temperatures or right at freezing temperatures, and that allows rain to freeze on contact with the ground, allowing for that freezing rain to create icy conditions. So that certainly is really one of the worst types of precipitation. We also have sleet, and that's when you hear the little ping as it bounces around, and you kind of see it if you really look in, the little pellet bounces when it hits the surface. So we do have, again, stuff starting as snow. There's a thin, warm layer aloft or higher up in the atmosphere, and that allows the snowflake to melt. However, it starts to approach a layer below freezing from the surface a couple thousand feet up, and that allows it to refreeze into ice pellets and cold air above the surface. So that's why sleet is at least around. It's like a little pebble. Now, here's what we had over the weekend. Now, it was a few flurries, no accumulation, but temperatures, which is pretty rare for Florida and southeast Georgia, below freezing, thousands of feet up all the way to the ground. And that means that that snowflake cannot melt, and it stays as a snowflake all the way to the surface. So again, snow remains snow due to the freezing layer extending from the cloud base all the way to the ground. So pretty remarkable. Again, it does not happen here often, and I hope you were able to get out there and see some of the flurries. By the way, we had the snow flurries, we had the wind and the cold. So the cold and the wind paired together, not a good combination because that stronger wind, we had gusts up to 40 to even 45 miles per hour at times. And I was looking through the data this morning, and actually at Jacksonville International Airport, we record the wind chill values, and for the month of February, we actually set a record for the second lowest wind chill in recorded history at the airport. So the top one, February 5th, 1996, where the airport recorded 7 degrees, but here we are, February 1st of this year, 8 degrees was the wind chill, and then you see some of those other dates, 1970 there, 9 degrees, and then 2 back-to-back days. How about that in 1958 with the wind chill at or just above 10 degrees. So again, it was very cold out there, and we're so thankful that you sent in your videos. Always great to see some confirmation of the forecast of what we're talking about on air, and you can see it in your area. Now, of course, today, sunshine is around. We're starting to warm up across our region. And then actually, I was just outside about 10 minutes ago. It is cold out there, but that sun, of course, here in Florida, the sun angle is very high, at least higher compared to the northern latitudes, and that's why it feels more warmer out there, at least more intense, the sunshine. So again, it is cold, but at least the sun is starting to make temperatures feel just a little bit better out there from the weekend. I know it feels like 33 when we have the wind, but without the wind, certainly an improvement compared to where we were this weekend with wind chills in the single digits. So right around 40 in Julington Creek, feels like 33. Of course, anything feels better than 8 degrees, right? And 501 Riverside camera there in downtown Charleston, I should say downtown Jacksonville. I was thinking of Charleston because they got some snow, which I'll talk about later on in the stream. But in terms of Jacksonville here, we are looking at sunshine, and then temperature there of 43 degrees, and we have a northwesterly wind right around 10, making it feel like 37. But look at our Mayport camera, and this is one I was showing all weekend. That flagpole, the flag really moving, still a bit breezy along the coast, but again, not as strong as what we saw over the weekend. We have a temperature there of 40, feels like 33 across the region. So let's talk about Jacksonville International, where we did tie a record low for the morning, and a temperature there now of 43, northwesterly wind right around 10. Here's our temperature since midnight. So the airport got down to 23. McClenny was near 20, 21 in Lake City. It's very cold, right? 28 in St. Mary's, Brunswick 23, 30 in Mayport. So again, another night all the way to the coast, which we typically don't see very often, falling below freezing. And clouds and radar verify that we are looking at across the region some of that activity to our north with some clouds, but that area of high pressure you see over the Gulf, that's allowing for that northwesterly wind to continue today. Eventually, by the middle of the week, that will shift to our east and we'll get a southerly wind, and that'll bump temperatures up. But right now, temperatures, again, after starting out in the 20s to low 30s, we are starting to rebound back into the 30s and 40s across our area. Right around 43 now in Jacksonville. We have Waycross at 43. Lake City, we're in the upper 30s. Palatka 41, and it's 44 now in St. Augustine, but the wind, again, not as much as what we saw over the past couple of days. Wind chill values generally in the 30s across our area, to even a few spots in the 40s. So let's break down your forecast for the day. We are looking at temperatures up into the 50s by the early afternoon. We'll likely top out in the mid 50s for many locations, even a few low 50s as we can see on the map. So temperatures will be running about 10 to even 15 degrees below normal, but we do start to warm up over the next few days. Futurecast shows, though, because of how cold that air is, completely sunny out there, and that's with that large area of high pressure over us, and that's allowing for really the entire column from the cloud base all the way to the ground, or thousands of feet up. There's just very dry air overhead, and that's why we're looking at that clear sky. So the dry air will keep us sunny, and Futurecast verifies that. Now, I do want to alert you tonight, we have another freeze expected. Freeze warning is up for Tuesday morning. We do not, at least as of this morning, have a cold weather advisory, so that's an indication that the wind chill will not be as low. But again, a freeze warning is likely with temperatures back into the 20s to low 30s. So another very cold night. Make sure to keep those faucets dripping. We've had numerous reports of pipes bursting, and that is due to those bitterly cold temperatures around. So 20s and 30s for the night tonight, and then we do rise into the 50s and 60s as we head into tomorrow. Most of us low to even a few mid-60s on the map, closer to where we should be for this time of year. And Futurecast shows throughout the day, some clouds bubble up by the afternoon, but we're not expecting any rain, but that will change. And by the way, while we've been talking about the cold, our attention also has to turn to our drought monitor, because it has been relatively dry over the past couple of weeks, and we actually now have a extreme drought in effect for portions of Columbia County, also Baker, Bradford, and Union counties. And then also, most of us east of there are in a severe drought. So that drought continues to expand as the dry weather's around. Typically with this cold weather, you don't see rain. We do start to warm up. Our rain chance will arrive by the middle of the week, but again, nothing substantial by any means. In fact, looking at our forecast, our clouds and radar map, there goes that high shifting east. Watch those arrows, by the way, over Florida. See that southerly movement? And that brings warmer temperatures around. Now, this model shows the front approaching on Wednesday, and that means showers will be likely as we head into the afternoon and evening. Not expecting a significant washout or heavy rain, but that rain will arrive. So temperatures will likely be near 70, and then on the back side of that front, see those lines moving back in from the northwest? That's a cooler wind direction. That'll bring temperatures by Thursday back into the 50s. So breaking down our 7-day forecast, we are looking at 53 for the day today, low 30s and upper 20s likely overnight tonight, so another widespread freeze. Tuesday we're back in the 60s, and then we do warm up to near 70 by Wednesday with a chance for a few showers. That 20% Thursday will likely be early in the morning. And then I noticed temperatures after Friday, we start to warm back up with highs back in the 60s, overnight lows eventually in the 40s. So of course we had that Weather Authority alert day in effect for the weekend, but now we are tracking at least more comfortable temperatures overhead by the end of the week into the upcoming weekend. So that's a look at our weather across our local area. I'll be back in just a few minutes with our national forecast coming up. All right, welcome back everyone. Well, let's take a look at our temperature outlook, because as we look ahead to February, well, you see near normal temperatures are expected from the Climate Prediction Center. Above normal temperatures to our west, and then to the northeast, slightly cooler temperatures. By the way, Punxsutawney Phil, how about that? Well, we had the forecast for the date, and Punxsutawney Phil saw his shadow. Now, what exactly does that mean? Well, that means that Punxsutawney Phil is predicting 6 more weeks of winter, which I, of course, don't need to tell you that after how cold it's been. But if he stays out, that means warmer days are ahead. So again, Phil said that there were 6 more weeks of winter. Now, if you look at recent statistics, this very interesting. I was looking at this. This is actually more likely to mean winter is ending, because Phil's record, he's been right about 35% of the time in the past 20 years. Of course, his history goes way beyond that, and the tradition has been ongoing since the late 1800s. So look at how cold it is there in Pennsylvania. So of course, Punxsutawney thinking 6 more weeks of winter, and certainly we felt winter-like temperatures here across Florida. By the way, speaking of temperatures, let's take a live look at our numbers across the state. And again, this is deep-reaching cold. I mean, for example, Jacksonville's 43. Fort Myers is only a few degrees warmer. Miami got down into the 40s this morning, and Key West is only 54. That is very cold for spots to our south. And again, outlying outside of Jacksonville, there are some outlying areas. We are a bit warmer than that. But again, it goes to show you that temperatures, certainly a very deep, far-reaching blast of cold air over the state of Florida. And temperatures across the region, cold pretty much everywhere, teens, 20s, and even 30s around. And that is due to all of that cold air coming in from Canada. And our wind chill values generally, large part of the country, single digits, if not teens and 20s across the region. By the way, speaking of snow cover, well, you don't see often snow cover all the way up into Georgia and in North Carolina. We'll take a look at this time lapse. This is impressive now. Portions of northeast North Carolina received over 10 inches of snow. So as we pull the time lapse, certainly was a very active storm, because there was a big band of moisture. Look at this here, how impressive. You'll see the ruler is right there, and the snow piles up. So as it continues to climb, and there was a really good band of snow as that low is deepening right along the North Carolina, South Carolina border, and that's where the highest totals were. How cool is that, right? And that is certainly years and years worth of snow. And some of these spots, some spots in North Carolina picked up close to a foot of snow. And we still have snow on the ground in South Carolina and also Georgia, which you can see that. In fact, as we take that full once more, let's take our snow cover map full. I want to see, this is something that's interesting, because what I'll do, I'll move to our radar, and I just want to show you, because this might be something that we can see on air. And one thing we're looking at in terms of our radar, you can actually look at our satellite, and that shows, so let me just type this in here, and I'll show you. And what that satellite shows is snow actually on the ground. So let me pull up as I look here, and I'll put this into the map. And this is really cool, because visible satellite, that's a satellite looking from space. And what we'll do is we'll zoom out, we'll put this into motion as we get the daylight. You notice all of that's still white here, and I'll kind of, I don't know if I can draw it on here, but you see that still bright white from, say, Columbia points north and east, and I'm kind of taking the mouse. That is snow on the ground. So snow on the ground is all the way into Georgia, which we were looking at. And basically on satellite, you can see it's snow because it's not moving. So that is still showing snow days after the event, and it goes to show how cold it is across the southeast. So pretty remarkable, right? We can see snow in the southeast on satellite. Now, in terms of temperatures, again, this morning it was bitterly cold, freezing temperatures all the way across the Sunshine State. We did tie the record today in Jacksonville of 23 degrees, and our temperature setup for Monday, we are looking at colder weather across the eastern part of the country, and that cold weather will stick around for the rest of the day and even into Tuesday. We are seeing that southerly flow bringing some rain to our west, and some showers will be possible on Wednesday across our area late in the day. Tuesday morning, as I mentioned, another widespread freeze across our area, so be aware of that. And that wind chill, the most significant wind chill values by Tuesday morning, generally north into Georgia points north, where the wind chill will drop below freezing. And then you can see that line retreating by Wednesday as some more mild temperatures move in, and even into Thursday. You can see the wind chills are lowest across the Carolinas. Next 3 days, just want to show you tracking the cold. Coldest of the air will be around to our north by Wednesday, and then also into a look ahead. Well, again, we have that system departing by Tuesday. A ridge in the west will bring another system to the central United States, and there comes our rain chance by Wednesday with that approaching front. So we are tracking the potential for some showers across our region. Want to quickly end the stream with NASA, because the Artemis 2, they've been trying to do a wet rehearsal. This was delayed due to the cold temperatures. So the agency is preparing for a dress rehearsal at Kennedy Space Center, and the hope is the rehearsal will take place tonight. Again, as of this stream, it looks like it's still ongoing, but we'll have to see. But cold weather and strong winds could alter their plans. So the initial plan was to launch the rocket later this week, but that will now be pushed back until engineers can review the results of the dress rehearsal. Of course, we want to make sure everything goes right. So once the mission gets underway, the astronauts will orbit the moon in the spacecraft, and this will be the first manned mission to the moon in more than 50 years. And we'll, of course, continue to update you on that here. But again, we'll see if that test can occur. There has to be conditions that are met. If they are exceeded, then it is not safe to conduct those tests. And of course, NASA wants to make sure that this is done right. So again, we'll provide more updates on that, and of course our local weather, our national weather, on our Weather Authority weekday stream. Hopefully you stay warm out there, and we'll be back at noon and this afternoon with the latest forecast. I hope that you have a great rest of your Monday.
See why every day more people are choosing News4JAX, Northeast Florida and South Georgia's #1 source for local news.